Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Doing Business in Bentonville's podcast today. My name is Andy Wilson, and I'm so glad you're joining us again. And I hope you enjoy our new logo that we have posted up on our screen today. Celia Swanson, my guest, is returning, or I should say co-host. Celia Swanson.
Yes,
yeah, that's right. You're not a guest anymore. You're the co-host. So Celia, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
It's great to see you again.
I'm thrilled.
Good. Thank you so much. I'm so excited about what we're going to talk about today. But I want to talk about our new logo, Servant Leadership Today. Celia, what do you think?
I love it. Well, first of all, I think it's the words speak to the principles of servant leadership and why they are extremely relevant today. It's not an old-time leadership philosophy. It's a current leadership philosophy.
That's right.
And I love that part of it.
You know, so I was recently cycling in New England, and I was actually cycled by the third oldest lighthouse in the United States. And,
cool.
And it's at a museum now. And I'll tell you what I thought about. Okay, this lighthouse, and there'll be some history on our website about it. I promise you, and some photos I've taken. But anyway, this lighthouse. You know what I thought about, Celia, when I was standing there looking out over the Atlantic Ocean? I thought about this lighthouse been sitting there for years and years and years. But you know what? That lighthouse brought safe passage, to so many people that were traveling through the Atlantic in that area. It warned of danger. It created safe passage. That's exactly what servant leadership is. It does warn of danger, but also helps us navigate the dangerous way through safe passage.
Yes.
And that's what we're doing here today.
It is exactly.
And so we're so excited about the episode today. But before we get into that, Celia, let's just go back and talk about episode 1 quickly, and that's on our website. Episode 2 is on our website, and then episode 3 that we'll talk about today. But Celia, one of the things that when you and I were collaborating around this whole idea of servant leadership, the first thing we did, we talked about you and your book, Gracious and Strong.
Yes,
and
thank you.
Let me hold that book up, so everyone can see that. There it is. Okay, and you'll be able to have a link on our website how to purchase that, and I hope you do. Also, but your book has really inspired us into this content that we've been talking about. And so, we talked about, again, podcast 1. Now, we recommend you going back and just watching those in order. But we talked about, the definition of leadership. And I remember you said, it's not easy.
It's not easy. It's not for the faint of heart.
It's not. And then, I thought really our discussion around what is servant leadership, what is not. And I loved that, we laid that out for our guests and viewers around what's not.
Right.
And then, we got into the fundamentals of servant of leadership. Yeah, we got into that. So go back and check that out. And podcast 2 or episode 2 in our series, Servant Leadership, Celia, I thought you really brought great content around defining your unique value proposition.
Yes, thank you.
Talk about that. I have been thinking a lot about that since we had that podcast.
Oh, that's great. That's what we want. Thought-provoking, insights.
Right.
That cause you to really look at yourself and understand the true meaning of that. But defining your unique value proposition, we talked about what is a unique value proposition. How do you even determine what's special and unique about you? What do you bring that no one else brings as a value proposition? And the whole concept of a value proposition, why do you need that? We talked about that as well, and how important it is that you understand that you do bring something of significant value to any role, any conversation. And if you're not in that headset or mindset yet, we talked about a couple ways to get yourself into that mindset.
Right.
Because you have to know and own what it is that you're bringing to that conversation, to that team, and then live up to it.
See, that brings me to a point before we get to podcast 3, but episode 3, I have to talk about this because you just nailed it. But let's talk to leaders for a moment, and it's something that we really want to make a point around leadership. Gallup poll, you probably heard of the Gallup organization. Their poll in 2021, they look at 3 areas, and they do this poll, and the first area is how engaged are your people? Now, leaders, how engaged are your people? Do you know that? But what Gallup says, that only 32% of the workforce is truly engaged. And you know what engaged means is that, hey, I'm in this thing. My leaders are listening to me. My leaders are asking me questions. They are engaging me in this content. You're really engaged in this business. That's what that is. But what's sad, it's only 32%.
Yeah.
That's low.
Very low.
Think of your productivity that you're missing around that. And they looked at not engaged, and they said 51% is not engaged. Now, there's a reason for that, and and I would ask you, the leaders, I would ask you 3 things here. As you look at your team, retain your stars, because you have stars. You may have stars on your team that's in that not engaged, and I will tell you, you don't want that.
Right.
And the second thing is, make your values known. That's what Celia just talked about.
Right.
Your value proposition. Make your company's values known. Make your leadership values known, but also engage in with your team members, your associates around what is your value proposition. Let's talk about that. You should take time and talk to your people about the values.
Yep.
And then the last thing is, your future leaders could be working for you. They could be there. And that's where, again, engagement.
Yes.
And talking to them. So you really, the most successful companies are companies that have engagement high scores from their people. We
measured it all the time.
We did, yeah.
And in fact, my last role at Walmart was owning and driving associate engagement.
Yeah, so important.
It's critically important. And back to your point about productivity, people, if they're engaged, they're coming in as, they're on fire. They're coming in as themselves, their full selves every day. But 51% are not engaged.
That's not
alarming.
It is alarming. And that's the Gallup poll for last year.
Right.
So, we have a episode coming up in a couple more, and we're gonna get into the power of purpose. Maybe we can come back and spend some time in that on this engagement thing. Okay, Celia. Okay. Are you ready for episode 3? Because I am.
I am too.
Okay, let's get there.
Go.
All right. This is going to be exciting. Celia and I have spent quite a bit of time on it. She's got such great insight in her book on it. It's Leading with Grace. Yeah. Leading with Grace. I love the title.
Thank you very much. It grew out of once I published my book, and people bought into this whole concept of grace and strength. I got asked so many questions about, well, how do I become a gracious and strong leader?
Right.
And I dug deep and really thought about what were the 3 pillars of being gracious and strong, and we're going to talk about those.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's get into those 3 pillars. Okay? Go, Celia. Get into it. This is going to be good. And we'll be going back and forth on it, but let's go.
Yeah, sounds great.
All right.
So the 3 pillars are leading with the heart, leading with the mind, and leading with respect. And those are very purposeful choices, and as well as the order that they're in. What do I mean by leading with the heart? What I mean by that is that you are empathetic, that you bring this desire to get to know the people that are on your team, and that you are inspiring the folks that are on your team. Leading with the mind is all about, how do I look ahead for the vision for my team? How do I help fuel their purpose? And their purpose, again, we'll talk about, how do you determine your purpose and others on your team, but how do you fuel it? Back to the engagement comment. How do you move from only 32% of your team being engaged to 75%, 80% higher if, you aspire to achieve that? And fueling their purpose is really important. And then leading with respect is all about you establishing the parameters and the behavior around respect always. And that's one of the things we talked about in our last podcast. For me, respect always is a bright line. And in this particular case, it's really about being present. We're all really busy, but you need to be present for your people, defending dignity, and just helping them understand they matter, what they do matters, and you're going to stand up and defend that.
I like that.
In their
it's so rich, and as I have studied this and thought through it, over the last several weeks, that I love leading with the heart, because you talk about courage, and it does take courage,
right?
Leadership is hard. It is hard. And it takes courage. And you talked about staying within the bright lines.
Yes.
Okay, talk about that.
Well, we talked a little bit on episode 2 about what is a bright line. And it's what you will stand for and what you will not stand for. And being very clear about that. So when someone crosses your bright line, it's like lines on the highway. It defines the path that you need to follow. When someone crosses that, you hold them accountable for not crossing that. And you sit down and explain why that's just not going to be something you tolerate. But being very clear about it, because it's kind of like water on stone. If you let it, Andy, not define, if you are not defined with what your bright lines are, that could be watered away over time. And all of a sudden you wake up and there's issues of integrity and concerns on the team, lack of alignment. So many different things can come if you don't understand and stand up for what matters most to you and your team.
Great point. And I thought you gave some great examples of that, but I think your definition of that bright line. So I think that helps us, because we're moving fast. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of stuff coming at you from every angle. And, I know when we both, at Walmart, when there was stuff happening all the time.
Right.
Around everywhere. And I know, I tell you what I did, and the bright line, to your point, I had close to my wall, was our values. And, we had our values, and I had those close. Stuff was happening. You had to make quick decisions. And, sometimes I would turn around to the left, and there was those values. Those are my bright lines.
Yes, that's right.
That's what they were. They were a reminder. I knew them, my heart and head and mind, all that. But stuff happens so quickly, and there's rapid decisions. That's why I wanted to revisit that today, because those are real anchors.
Yes.
That's what I call them.
Right. Yes. I completely agree with that. And, I'll add on, that a story when I was trying to hire one of the top talent folks in the organization and bring her onto my team at Sam's Club. I didn't show respect to her boss, and I didn't call him, ask permission to talk to her. The job was posted, so it was public, and she applied through the process, but I never picked up on the phone and called. And so when it came time for me to offer her the job, which I did, and she was very excited about it, it got blocked. And I was like, how could this possibly be? This is one of the top talent. I'm going to groom this, leader. But it was David Glass. It went all the way to the top of the house. And David Glass said to me, you owed her supervisor a phone call and the respect to say, this is my candidate, and I'd like her to come over into this new role. And I'd already announced to my team that she was coming. Like, it was an embarrassing moment in so many ways. But my bright line was I went back to my team and I said, hey, I misstepped on this one. And this person can no longer come and work on our team. Has nothing to do with her. Has everything to do with how I didn't show respect to her supervisor and pick up the phone. And I want all of you to remember that lesson and don't have to experience it yourself. The respect of just picking up the phone and having a conversation with her supervisor would have eliminated all of this. I really thought my team was just going to get down on me. The opposite happened. The opposite was they went, wow, you're admitting a mistake. You're trying to use that lesson to help teach me. And I understand why that individual's not joining us. But my engagement scores went up that year. I was like, holy smokes.
Yeah,
but it speaks to being honest and truthful and, standing up for what's right and wrong. And when you cross that line, owning it.
I think that's a great story. A lot of, you learned a lot. Your team learned a lot. And I was recently reading some information. A gentleman named Tom Marshall, who was the author of Understanding Leadership. So, it's really pour straight into what you just talked about. 'Cause, your understanding grew. We all do. We all learn from things like that. I'm gonna read what Tom Marshall says in this book. I got this from his book, Understanding Leadership, and he says, "You will never lead people unless you know them." Now, it doesn't stop there. Then he says, "You will never know people unless they reveal themselves to you." You've probably got questions now. How does that happen? He says, "They will never reveal themselves to you unless they trust you." And then he says, "They will never trust you unless they know you." Now you have lots of questions about this, I'm sure. Then he finishes it up. "They will never know you unless you're open to them." What you did that day, you built trust with your team because you revealed yourself. You were open, and they built trust. That's why your engagement scores went up, because they trusted you.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think the point to all of our leaders and our people listening today is that in servant leadership, it is you want to build trust. Trust is so important. And I'll quite frank, and we'll talk more about the trust in our podcast today. But Celia, your story is talking about you revealed yourself.
Yes.
And they got to know you.
Yeah.
You make mistakes like we all do. We all do.
Exactly right.
You said, I made a mistake. I should have done this. And I think that's the lesson. That's part of our lessons around leading with the heart, leading with the mind, leading with respect. Because I think you used all those words and we were talking about that. So
Well, let's dig into a little bit more about how do you connect with your people and how do you open up? And a lot of that falls under leading with the heart. And so the first component of leading with the heart is have courage. And, every single day you come to work or in life, you're going to be faced with choices on, do I stand up and, not tolerate that? Or am I the first one through the door to go, fight for this opportunity that really my team is capable of accomplishing? Or did somebody try to cross over and do a power play on you and you don't want it to be that way and you have every right to go challenge that conversation and have that conversation with a peer leader? That's what having courage is. It's being the one who's willing to stand up and say, let's talk about this, because that power play is not going to happen on my watch. So let's talk about what's your motivation behind that and what are the skills and capabilities that you and your team have. And, let us prove that to you. That's all about having courage. The second part of leading with the heart is care and show it. You cannot care about people if you don't know something about people, about that individual. And we got taught, you ask about a person's family, you ask about their goals and aspirations, you compliment them when they're achieving incremental milestones to accomplish those goals. And then you almost always start a conversation with, how's your family? Are they doing well? And the best example I can give, when people on our team experience loss, going to that person at that time and saying, I'm here for you, or attending a funeral, or being at the hospital, or being there for them is really a show of, I care about you. And, sometimes we don't have time for that, right? Just doesn't matter. That's not the choice.
Right.
The choice is being there for somebody when they need you.
When I was a long time ago, I joined Walmart. I was going through my orientation. And I think it was day 2 of my career. And the store manager, I was going through, and I was day 1. It's more going through everything. Day 2, I went to work.
Yes.
And so, but he said, "Now, Andy, here's what I want you to do. I want you to stand at the front door, and I want you to greet every associate when they come in." And I went, "Okay." He says, "And I want you to ask them how they're doing. I want you to ask them about their family. You're new, introduce yourself. Tell them who you are, what you're doing here, and manager, trainee." And I stood there for an hour.
Yep.
He was teaching me the value of what you just said.
Yeah.
Because I demonstrated it. It became norm that we were always there. Some of us, not all of us, but we rotated in the mornings, and then in the evenings when they left, we said thank you. We stood at the door as they left.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a nice evening. Say hello. And if, like you said, how's your husband? How's your wife? How's your friend? How's your son? Whatever. And we did that. But that was critical, important.
Yes. And what a great story that is. And it's not just doing it when people are watching.
Right.
It's also doing it when it's just you and that person.
That's right.
And, one of the things we would do when we announced our scores, our engagement scores, we would have an associate recognition day.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. I was behind the food line serving my associates.
Absolutely. Yep.
I didn't just, say, come on, let's go have breakfast together and sit at the table. I was serving them.
Right.
Those are the ways that you can show every day and at special moments in time that they matter to you. I love your story. The last part of leading with the heart is inspiring your team. And I just can't tell you how critical I think inspiration is, because if no one in their life is bringing them inspiration and asking them, what do you think? How can you add value to this? Is it a crazy idea or is it a great idea? And just, having them weigh in, then, you be the one, because that might not be the personal environment they're in. But if you really want to drive engagement, you're out there inspiring that team every day, even if they failed at something. I watch football coaches and I get really mad at when I think, they've made a mistake or they've underestimated the team. But at the end of the day, they do have a job to go back and say to those kids or the men or the women that, maybe we didn't give our all today. Boom, 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 things we didn't do. But in the end, you matter. You matter. This is important. And take the lessons for what they are. But don't get down on yourself.
Right.
Just think about how you can do something
That's
better.
good.
So, inspire.
Leading from the heart.
Yes.
I like it.
So leading with the mind
is
first look ahead. That's behavior number one, look ahead. And I think I talked about that just a minute ago, but also being resilient. That if you get knocked down, which happens relatively often, pick yourself back up. It is really all about how do you respond in times of change. And in a dynamic world that we live in, there's change constantly.
Right.
And so how are you as a leader just looking at and helping people see that that's not the end of the world, that you just, got challenged on something? How do you add to that challenge and turn it into a positive?
I love it.
Shift your focus is about creating opportunity for others. And I think when we first introduced servant leadership, it is really about how can you help others bring their full selves to work? And how can you find opportunities? How can you create opportunities that then give people the chance to do something different in their work or add, add a point of view and expertise on something that might be lacking. But you just need to get inside their heart to say, I know you can do this, but shifting their focus and giving them opportunity and then leveraging their success and then fuel purpose. We talked about that one, so I won't dwell on that.
But that's a so good one.
Yeah, it is a great one.
It's really about, you talk about your personal mission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
I love that. It's, bring your personal mission to life by seeing the larger vision at hand.
Yeah.
That's powerful, Celia.
Thank you.
It really is. And sometimes we have to step back and do that. And situations sometimes cause us that we need to step back.
Yes.
And refocus at times and reprioritize at times. And, that will bring you fuel.
That's right.
And I love that. Because we need, as leaders, we need the fuel. We need that because you're facing challenges and some things don't go your way.
Yep.
And how do you go and navigate through that and get up and go to work the next day and say, okay, I'm here.
Yes.
I'm in.
Yep.
And that's the feel. I love that.
Good.
So that's leading from the mind. So it's the heart, the mind. Now, what's the third?
Leading with respect, like my bright line, right? But the first is you have to be present.
Yeah.
You cannot just sit behind your desk or get so engrossed in a project that you are not present for your team, for an individual at the moment when they need it.
Yeah.
Yeah. This thinking you can give your proxy of leadership just by, the presence, maybe in the morning, and then you never see him again or never see him again during the week. No, there's no proxy for your leadership. Right. You have to stand there and be present and listen to them and pay attention. That was one of the hardest things for me to learn because I'm a multitasker, right?
Right.
But stop and really look them in the eye and listen to what they have to say. Right. It will change the course of how they feel about you as a leader. So that's the concept of being present. Second is defend dignity. And I thought long and hard about what I wanted the proper words to be here because every individual deserves dignity. I don't care what the circumstance is.
Absolutely.
And it is your job to defend their dignity as their leader. And that means if somebody's tearing them down individually or publicly, you have to stand up for them. You have to ensure that nobody's being stripped of their dignity. And then just being honest and truthful with individuals, even if it's difficult feedback that you have to give. You want to be the one who's giving them that feedback so that they can improve, and it will be delivered in a way that they can hear it. Not, once a year in an annual performance review or whatever.
Agree.
It's building that on a daily basis.
Right.
And then the last component is add value. And this is talking about when you show up, contribute more than is expected. I learned that at Walmart so many times that if I added to something that was broken, or if there was a great idea but I thought it could be even bigger, I said something and added to that. And every individual can do that. Every individual can bring, their respected intellect to work and
well, I think
added it.
Engaged team members add value.
Yes, I
will tell
agree
you
with that.
Non-engaged does not.
Yeah, that's right.
There you go. So what do you want on your team?
Yeah.
So how do you do that? How do you and you're sharing with us how you improve engagement in your organization?
Yes.
Yeah. And just like, and the heart, mind, and respect.
Yep.
That's how you do it.
Yep. It is how you do it.
Yeah.
These are tried and true principles.
They are. They're so good.
We have a model for this, and we'll put it up on the website so that you all can reference it and take any notes. But
say a quick story that this brought back to my mind. My very first store, I was a store manager, and at Walmart we had a 5-year training program, and I got promoted in 3. Maybe they're short staff, I don't know. But anyway, so I'm running my first store, and I took the store over from it was a disaster. Unfortunately, the store manager was terminated for a lot of unethical issues. But anyway, I took the store over, and so I'm in my ripe age of my 20s at this point, and a lot of experience, right? And I show up. I am checked into the store, and the store manager had already exited, and I took care of that at my first day. And I had my first day there, and then there was a lot of issues there. And I was at a local hotel, and I went to late that night. I went to a hotel, and I was making out a list of all the stuff I wanted to do. I'd visited with a lot of people. I visited with the management team, and I walk into day 2. And the entire office staff walks out. And they're very key inside of a Walmart store. It's your cash, it's your accounting, it's all that.
Yes.
And they walk out. And, that's a lot for a young person on day 2.
Yes.
And and there's a long story of how we figured this out. But one of the biggest issues, and we got people, and I had helped the call and got support, but, it was a tough day too. So on day 3, I started walking around talking to the people. I knew they just weren't sharing and opening up to me. Mm-hmm. Back to your point about being present. Mm-hmm. So here's what I did. I had an office in the back, and I heard that the previous store manager spent a lot of time in the office with the door closed. So day 3, I got someone to help me, and I removed the door from the office. And then my meeting that next day, I told the associates, I said, well, that you probably noticed there's no door on my office any longer. They said, yeah. I said, well, let me tell you why there isn't. At Walmart, we have a thing called open door policy. And what that means is that we're going to communicate together and be present.
Yes.
And the reason there's no door anymore, there's no reason that you see me there in there working, that you can't come in now. I took the barrier down, and I want to be present with you. Mm-hmm. I want to be open with you. Mm-hmm. And let's work together to solve these issues here. Now, here's what happened. What happened was very few people came in, but the idea that I was going to be open and be present, it set the stage.
Yes.
Now, I met them in their departments, in their areas, and talking to them, and I had a few to come in. But the point was, you know what? I'm present. There's no barriers no more to get to me.
Yeah.
There's none. And that group of people turned that store around, and they did it. We did it, and I was quickly promoted. But the reason I was promoted is because I took the door off and I was present and we listened. And that's what you're saying.
Yes.
Because if you can't be present, it's hard to demonstrate leading from your heart, leading from your mind, leading from respect.
Yes.
So be present.
Yes.
I just wanted to underline that.
Thank you.
That is so valuable to the people.
Again, we learn it from some leaders that don't demonstrate it, right?
Right.
And then you really understand what you don't want to be as a leader.
Right.
And how you're going to remove barriers, because I love the whole concept of removing barriers, that get in the way of success.
Oh, all right. This has been so rich as always with you. Now, any last minute thoughts around leading with grace, and then we'll begin to wrap up and talk about a bit introducing our next episode.
Yeah, what I would say here is that cultivating the heart, mind, and respect of an individual over time will empower, it will build confidence, it will boost their engagement and productivity, and it will create a powerful sense of we inside your organization. And the most trusted and valued leaders are those who cultivate the heart, cultivate the mind, and cultivate respect. And that whole concept of trust, that's the payoff of this. So if you wonder, gosh, really, why do I have to, do all of these all the time? What's the payoff to that change? It's trust.
Wow. That really is just powerful. We've talked to character and the last thing that I would say here is that character makes trust possible, but trust makes leadership possible. And that's what we've talked about here.
Yes.
The trust, the foundational trust. And just like Celia has talked so well about, how the three pieces of that, components of leading with grace.
Yes.
Powerful.
Wow. Thank you.
It's so good. Okay. Next episode, we're going to talk about the power of purpose.
Yes.
Wow. So I'm telling you, it's going to be great. I'm going to tell you, we're working on it. And again, Celia and I thank you for your viewers. Thank you for watching and listening to us. And we just really appreciate this opportunity. And we look forward to seeing you again, or you listening to us again very soon. I've gotten several messages on LinkedIn. When's the next episode?
Yeah,
okay,
so it's awesome.
So it's coming, you're sure. Well, Celia, I think we've got a great logo.
I do.
Servant Leadership Today. I love our content. I can't wait to us to come back together. And it's sort of it's the Thanksgiving season area. Because it'd be past time, that. But we hope you've had a wonderful holiday.
Yes, we do.
We look forward to definitely visiting with you prior to the holiday season. So, Celia, thank you.
Andy, my pleasure.
Yeah, it's so
Thank you
good to
so
see you
much.
again. It's so good to visit with you. Again, you can always check us out at your favorite streaming channels. So check us out there. Our website, dbbnwa.com. And soon our new website of Servant Leadership Today will be up with all this content and more on that. Thank you again, everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you. Goodbye.